Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:05, the Town of North Branford regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, November 2nd. Roll call is Trish Massey, Ron Sienna, and myself, Fran Leskovich, and that's it tonight. The old business, the request for bond application has been tabled. And we want to do the minutes of October 19th. I don't know, did you guys read it?
Yep.
Yes,
Anybody want to,
I motion we accept the minutes of October 19th.
I second.
okay, so be it. Again, on old business, the bond release has been tabled. On new business, there's an informal discussion regarding 87 Sarah Road, proposal for subdivision of the lot and new business. And I think the gentleman is here. You want to come up and speak in the mic and tell us who you are?
Hi, good evening. I'm Jonathan Donadio, and I've been looking for some property in North Branford to move my business to. Right now, I'm out of Guilford. I live there as well, and we've been looking at residential properties as well in Sea Hill Road area. And I would like to try to figure out if I can move my business as well as family into North Branford. And one of the pieces of property that we thought might be able to work would be on Cyril Road. I spoke to Tony, who's the current landowner now, and he has some plans that are approved already for 3 buildings on the property. But I wanted to just kind of take a 3-acre section of the property and see if I can get that, adjusted with you guys. And there was just a couple questions that we had as far as setbacks and stuff like that. I have the plans from that Tony had as well, and I also made a copy over his with just pretty much what I wanted to do on it with, not engineer plans, but I wanted to see if we can, before I went through all that, make sure it would be okay with, the town, obviously.
Take a look.
Oh, is that for you?
So I think, I think I guess come and show us the plans. This was
That's the original
approved,
plan.
this was approved in, I think, was it 2009 or 10? 2009, I believe.
Yeah. And then he just changed it to, or extended it, I think, with you guys.
So just to orient everyone,
Yep.
so, let's see, this is Cira Road in the cul-de-sac, and then it turns into like a dirt road. This is the old dump road that goes to the landfill.
Which
This
is
is the same-
still a town road, right?
Correct.
So, yes, that is one of the questions that, Jonathan and I met with, Tom Hogarty, our zoning officer, and Kurt Weiss, because we had a few questions. One of the questions is, the pavement ends right about here, and it turns into a dirt road. The town never abandoned that road, but Kurt explained it that they stopped listing it as a road that the town puts money into and maintains. Because one of our questions for you is, if Jonathan is able to subdivide this property, he would be looking to do something along these lines, but he needs frontage on a road. And the question is, which I think may have to go to Pat Young, is this considered a road?
Well, legally, it's still on the books as a town road.
Right.
So that should be your answer.
Right.
Yep.
Because the concern would be if at some point, say something goes wrong, right? And, I mean, the plan would be for Jonathan to have an easement through here, so he wouldn't
Right.
actually access it down here, but just to comply with zoning, he would need a street frontage. But if something happened and he needed to construct something over here, I don't know that he would be able to because of the wetlands there. And also because this is not a town maintained road.
But it's still
So-
on the books as a town road.
Yes.
So legally, it's a town road, so legally, he should be able to, even
Count
though
that
he's
as
gonna
frontage.
access
Yep.
through another road
Easement.
there.
Right.
Yeah, he would do a deeded easement,
Right.
written for even like the next buyer or whatever, because like on these plans here, excuse me for 1 second.
Mhm.
He's got his proposed driveway coming in to access these two buildings anyways. And then, you know, have this building, which is like that fenced-in area up, this area here is this section. So pretty much where that driveway is, I would come in. This is the same thing, but I just put a highlighter on. An acre, I learned, is 209 feet by 209 feet, so essentially it just came out, again, roughly, just rule on pencil. 209 feet, and I just wanted to go straight across. And then this is like the highlighted area where I wanted to put a building that's 80 feet deep by 120. And then this is just the same plan, but all I did was just white out the other buildings and stuff, so you can see, you know, this is all I was looking to do. But,
And are the setbacks?
Yeah, are they the same?
Okay,
yeah, well, again, this isn't engineered, on the I-2,
The setbacks are marked here.
yeah, that was all
Yeah, it
marked
looks like
in.
it conforms
it's
to
20
that other
feet.
building.
Okay.
Right, this is all engineered out, it was
And
20-foot
50 foot
setbacks.
setback
Is-
from the
is-
street.
Is this 150 feet, or do they comply with that, or,
150 feet for,
wait a minute, I'm thinking residential or 40. You need 150 feet on a road.
correct. So for an
I believe it
industrial
was 50 feet.
frontage,
yeah, I believe
yes,
it's
that's
50
right.
feet.
Just 50 feet of frontage.
So again, roughly, this would be 209 feet, assuming that you guys would acknowledge that that is your town road.
Yeah.
And then he would give an easement for me to access in and out of the building and not actually have to ever touch that road, which is the paved road to the dump.
Again, if legally it's on the books, whether they maintain it or not, it's legally a town road.
Right.
So there's
And then there
no
would be.
issue.
Right, there'd be liability with fire trucks getting in, you know, a town road. Yeah, fire trucks drive on town roads. They won't go on an easement or anything. So it would be to your advantage to have a road, which is there.
Yeah,
So that, I mean.
well,
once-
I wouldn't have a driveway going out there though, that's the only thing. Like, I just wanted that to acknowledge the road and then, you know, pave the driveway in here like he already has it proposed in. So I mean, at that point, this essentially would be my driveway coming in.
And actually, the fire has already approved the other buildings, so they must know they can go in that way.
Correct. The only difference with this is that
This-
the prior
that's all one
approval
lot.
was one lot, was one parcel. I don't know, we can ask fire when if we can get to that stage. We would obviously have them review it and do a referral.
Well, I don't see any problem. It's a
No.
town road. What are you gonna do with it? You're not gonna put a house there. It's revenue for the town. And it's a company that doesn't have a lot of traffic going in and out.
So that was the other question though, because in talking with Jonathan, I just wanted to get the commission's opinion on this. So the description that, maybe you can just describe it and then I'll say what we had talked
Yep.
about, where you'd fit on this use chart.
So what I wanted, I own a trucking company, and I also wanted to do like a wholesale landscaping yard to sell mulch. Because like, I do a lot of decorative stones, we pick up decorative stone in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, I mean, we bring the lava rock out of Florida up here. I haul mulch out of Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, I mean, like, that's the main bulk of my business. So what I wanted to do is, originally how I ended up coming in, there was a lot for sale on Route 80 past, like, Dependable Hydraulics, there's the pad, then there's another little lot for sale. I spoke to Carrie about doing a landscaping yard there, and then I said, well, it'd be great if I put a garage up for the trucks. Because I haven't. Right now, I rent in Branford, and my office is in Guilford, and now I have to turn around and have a yard in North Branford.
You're
Yeah,
all
it's
over the place.
constantly crisscrossing. So, but then that was directly next to residential and stuff, because with the trucks, it would fall under we feel it would fall under a trucking and warehousing, which has 500-foot setback, or, well, it doesn't say setback, it says 500 feet from residential.
District.
But in residential districts. So the part of the question we have is, it's kind of open for interpretation because it just says district. Are they talking about the actual dwelling? Is it, because right here, this is the lot again, and that is where Atwater's going.
Arrow, yep.
Arrow, yes, excuse me. And then right here is a residential lot.
And then,
It was that one over here, I
Yes.
thought, where the
Yep.
playground was over.
yes.
This is a little bit smaller than the
You're
other
right,
one.
you're right.
So our concern would be if it's 500 feet from property to property, then obviously I'm out because it doesn't make it. But if it's 500 feet from property to building, I'm over five, I have like 5 feet to spare. But if it's, building to house, it's well over 1,000.
Isn't it up here, isn't this a hill up here?
Yes, that
Like
goes
a-
up, correct. And that's where the question came from, was it 500 feet for, like a noise buffering? Because with all these trees in the front, it's wetlands, obviously, and I can't, obviously can never develop and.
What do the regs say?
So, I guess the first question
Yeah.
is, do you feel that he falls into this category? So this is C-14, which is freight and materials trucking businesses, terminals and bus maintenance terminals, to the extent that the same is permitted in a district, shall not be located less than 500 feet from a residence district. So it was more the freight and materials trucking.
Right.
But is he really freight?
That's what we're wondering. The other category could be like a building contractor's yard. I mean, that aero paving
Well, how, like,
was,
the trucks are for what, just carrying in the material? How many trucks are there?
I own 4. And like, I have one driver that lives in New Jersey, he takes his truck home, I never see
Yeah.
it. Another one lives in Stanford, he takes his truck home. Another guy lives in Norwich, he takes his truck home. I'm the only one there.
And it's to go pick up the material and drop it off?
Yes, but like, I am for hire, like I do take material out to Pennsylvania, because then at that point, if I get paid, if you pay me to take material out, I can bring my stone back and essentially bring it back for free, and theoretically at that
Yep.
point. I could buy material for $8 a ton.
So
read this, yeah.
maybe he shouldn't be listed under trucking and freight. Why would he fall under that category?
It was more because of the hauling, I believe, that
What's the other one that wanna go on there?
the other one is really just building contractor's yard.
And what's Arrow Paving under?
Building and contractor's yard, because they're a paving company, so they're not hauling material. That was the difference.
Yeah, that was also part of the question, because like, I do own excavators and loaders as well. And then at that point, I mean, like, the name of my company is Double Green Circle Incorporated. So it's not like it's Double Green Trucking or anything like that, so, I mean, I have, because, obviously to separate, for attorneys and tax purposes, it wouldn't even be owned by the trucking company at that point. I would just be a tenant there, but again, the last thing I want to do is take on this venture, and next thing you know, I gotta leave. So, yes, there will be trucks there. It's not a 24-hour truck stop. It's nothing like that. But it's more just to park.
Well, I mean, even with the paving company, there's trucks coming and going all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, they have more trucks than I do.
oh,
I'm not,
ton more.
yeah, I'm not looking for that.
So what would paving fall under?
We had paving, I think, under building contractor's yard.
Is that a definite or a maybe or a no, like who?
Here, actually, I brought the
Cause
file.
I feel like it is more along the lines of paving, contracting versus having a trucking business.
It's basically a landscaper's yard.
That's what I wanted to do, is put bins in and have
Yeah.
different products for sale. But again, my
So-
concern is
You're not gonna be selling out of there, you're gonna be selling to,
wholesale yards and stuff like that. But,
Yeah.
well, that, and I would have it open to the public. If somebody, if you said, hey, I need 5 yards of mulch for my house, well, come on down, I have it. But like,
Yep.
to the material to have it readily available in Connecticut versus, Maryland,
Yeah.
it gives me an advantage to turn around and blast it out. And then again, at that point, I have it here, and supply and demand.
What are the setbacks if it's a lumber and, oh, my bad.
So it's C-15 and C-16. That's what we had him under, which is lumber and building materials yards, building contractors yards, and manufacturing processing for assembling of goods.
Who's that?
Aero paving.
So why couldn't they go under
Yeah, I feel like.
the?
Yeah, and that's why we're here to talk with you about it.
And then what are the setbacks for C-15 and C-16, the same?
The same, because it's based on the
Yeah.
zoning. This is the only one, the freight and materials trucking, that calls out the 500-foot distance.
Oh, what's the distance for here?
There is a distance from a residential district, but he is surrounded, that parcel is surrounded by industrial. I think the residential is maybe to the south, but you're far from that. So there's no required distance besides what it is for all. It's 50 feet from a residential district from the property line for setback, which would be in the southwestern
I
corner.
mean, yeah, I wanna liken it to paving and not, it's not a trucking business.
No, it's not. Put it under
Yeah.
contractors, whatever that
We
category
don't have,
is.
we don't have a separate thing for landscaping, which is
I mean-
lighter than construction.
Sure.
Right, it's really like building contractors' yards, which is a site plan. And that was the other main difference between the two. The trucking business is a special use permit, so it would be a public hearing.
Yeah, cause that, like, your trucks are coming in and out all day, every
Right.
day.
Yeah, and
And
he
that's
doesn't
where we
have
were
that.
thinking of like Scott Ballard as well, or Colombo Trucking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
Okay,
think that's
so you think
comparable.
under the contractor's yard, so C
Yeah.
15? Okay.
Great, yeah, thank you. Just like I said, before I started really getting into spending money, I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that this would first be usable.
well, naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
Go buy it and then
Yeah.
find out, oh, guess what?
Okay.
Okay, so that answers the use question, that's great. And then going back to the roadway, you don't, doesn't sound like you see an issue with this being counted.
No,
counted
No,
towards
on the
it's
books,
legally-
it's a road, it's a road.
It's legally a town road,
Okay,
and if something happens, and you have a huge snowstorm, I'm sure you could get your payloader out there.
Oh,
and-
yeah, I'll take care
Put
of
your
that.
own.
That's easy enough.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but
But,
I think this section should be cleaned out. I mean, it's the town land, you know, so
Oh, it's
that's.
clean, they just have a Jersey barrier across it. It's wide open, there's no oak growth or nothing like that.
Oh,
There's just the Jersey barrier, you can
yeah.
almost see it right there.
And that's more to prevent people from
Oh, yeah.
dragging
Going
quads
in.
back
Dumping.
there, which I think they do anyway, or dumping.
Yeah.
But I think the other concern is that this, you can see how it changes. This is all wet back here, and I think it's pretty wet in this area.
Yeah, so.
So that's just another challenge with, you can't just go out and pave it because there's a lot of wet
Yeah.
areas or standing water.
Well, as
But-
they say, as long as the town has it on their books,
Mhm.
so they're not
Yep.
maintaining it, well, fine. They don't have to maintain it.
And it's cause it's not being used, so
Mhm.
Yep.
why waste the money?
Mhm.
Sounds
Okay.
fine.
well, it's on the books. It's not
Mhm.
for,
Right.
it's not for future road expansion.
No, it's
Yeah.
just legally a town
It's just
road.
Right.
legally a road.
Well, we can get into the technicality of the Jersey barrier later on, whether keep it or not keep it.
Yep. Okay. Great. Perfect.
Okay.
I get to move forward. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good luck, thanks for.
Thank you very much.
So when are you opening?
I'm gonna send Tony a text message now. I don't know if, last I knew he was in Las Vegas, so I don't know.
Hey,
That
with
may be
Harry,
better.
that's where Harry is.
I'm leaving tomorrow morning to go there.
Oh, wow.
Thank you guys.
Business
Okay,
expense.
the next on the list is the town planners report. Application and scheduling of regular meetings the 16th and the 7th of December.
So, we received application 2017-12, which is a proposed 3-lot subdivision at 67 Totucket Road, which is the old Silly Putty Factory heading south on
Right, yeah,
Totucket Road.
Yeah,
So I received that application, but I'm just, they have to go before wetlands first, so I just wanted to get it on the books that we're receiving it now, the clock will start, and then we'll hear from them at the I believe the November 16th meeting, but we'll have to see how wetlands goes, because we don't wanna bring it here before we
Yeah.
get some kind of report from wetlands. And I have the application for the residential over businesses in the B1, B2, B3, so here's the application, I just wanted to make sure everyone was okay with it.
that's what we talked about. And
Right,
decided to go with.
just simple changes at this point, just to clarify any misunderstandings or just to clarify it, so. It says here in the application, the applicant name, North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission, town's address, my email, section of zoning regulations to amend, section 23, Schedule B, standards 1.1, 11.1, and 11.2. so under B1, section, so that's all, that's at the table, which is the last page in your packet. And I have those in bold, so 1.1 is under B1, and it would be setting the minimum lot area per multiple dwelling unit at 10,000. So I didn't change any of that wording under the standards column. Only the things in bold are proposed changes. And then the minimum floor area under the B1 column would be set at 800 for the minimum square footage on ground floor for each dwelling, and then 600 for each dwelling unit in a multiple dwelling. And then the next change is under section 42.5.1, multiple dwellings in B1, B2, B3, and MVP districts, section D. And that is the fourth page, and it just would read, in the MVP district only, the lot shall contain not less than 20,000 square feet for each dwelling unit. Lots in the B1, which would be added, B2 and B3 districts shall contain not less than 10,000 square feet, as opposed to 20 for each dwelling unit.
Looks good.
And then I just added a description for the reason for the text amendment. Just talking about having it be consistent with the regulations. And I also referenced back in July of 2014 how the text amendment was approved to allow for residential over businesses in a B1 zone. And I think it just wasn't changed on the table. Let me know if you have any changes.
That's what we talked about.
Okay. So I'll just sign that on behalf of the commission.
Yeah.
And then I think that I would recommend that we set a public hearing for December 7th
Okay.
For,
this text amendment. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
yep. We only have one meeting in December, don't we?
Right.
God, I can't believe it's Christmas already.
You know.
Go to Home Depot. It's been Christmas since July.
Next to the witches.
Okay, that was everything that I had. Unless we want to talk about, just briefly, I guess I'll just mention, as part of our meeting, I did attend the public hearing last Wednesday about 1599 Foxen Road, and the majority of the people who were there that spoke favored keeping the parcel as open space. So it was like 60% open space, 40% development, or 70-30, you know. So, you know, there's an election next week, so it sounds like the item's being tabled until the new council is sworn in, and it will be discussed a little bit further, but that was the feedback from the meeting anyway. So we'll just kind of see where it goes from here.
Was there any feedback from economic development?
Yeah, not as a group. There were one member who spoke, who's on economic development, but she spoke as an individual
Citizen, yeah.
resident, right. So, no, EDC did not take a position as a group.
Is that still, I forget what we decided on our survey going out. Is that a question on our survey? For our plan of conservation and development? I forget what we decided. I thought we said.
I don't know, we can look at that. The
Well, we said we didn't
timing,
wanna touch, well, no, we
Right.
said we didn't wanna touch Board of Ed or
right,
an
education
issue.
stuff.
But I think that was one of the questions on our
We
survey.
could have it on there, if the timing works out.
It wouldn't be a bad
And-
idea.
So with the new year coming, now that the state budget has been set, I'm going to work with the town manager to go back to town council to request funding for the plan of open space, the POCD, plan of conservation
Oh,
and
yeah,
development,
yeah.
I mean. So because we need to
Wait.
get that going, that has to be completed by July of 2019, so we have time, but I just wanna leave
The
at
one
least a
thing that
year.
I brought up a couple of years ago, and if we're redoing that whole thing, you should really look at is going towards green space. I mean, green buildings.
Uh-huh,
there, you don't have to go all out, but we could certainly do collecting water for irrigation. We could certainly do things like permeable asphalt that's being done every place. I don't know what else, but small, at least small things. And, you know, if it raises the cost of housing a little bit, well, so be it, because less kids coming in. But I don't think it should affect it that much. And we really got to start thinking about it. As I say, I brought this up a couple of years ago, and everybody just squashed it all up. But I just think it's important, and the more you read about it, the more you realize that other towns are going hog wild over it. And
Okay,
if
yeah,
we want to save the country, we got to start small.
right. Yeah, we can look at other towns for examples of how to
Yeah.
add that in. And I think another area that the zoning officer and I have been talking about are the neighborhoods that have like quarter acre lots. Because we're seeing, and I've seen them since I've been here, variance requests for coverage. So if you have a quarter acre lot and you have a house and you just wanna add a garage or even a deck, you could be over the 10% coverage easily with just your house. Even with just a small,
Putting on the deck.
small house. So, I'm gonna talk with you guys at some point. I don't know if we should go towards having a text amendment like we do for lots that don't meet the minimum frontage requirement of 125 feet. If you only have 100 feet of frontage, you can actually go down to 10 feet for your side setback. So we may want to allow for the coverage to go up to whatever number over 10% if you're under, or, I don't know what size, maybe if you're under a half an acre lot, or we can decide what number's right. Or, that's one way to go, or another thought, and this is a little bit more work, is to look at our zoning map that I just had. And maybe we want to identify some of those neighborhoods that have small lots and actually rezone those as like an R20 zone. So that it's, and my thinking behind that is that that maintains the character of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that, say, someone purchased the lot next to them and they own their lot, it would prevent them from combining it or having to combine it. It would allow them to keep those small lots. So that's where a consultant will come in, I feel like, with the plan of conservation and development to tell us which way is the better way to go.
And to put all these ideas out there.
Right. I just feel like with trick-or-treating with my kids the other day, there's something to be said for those smaller, denser neighborhoods where it's like, this is just like classic America where you can go from door to door and just a feeling of safety, of kids can ride their bikes up and down and...
I'm trying to think of what areas are still like that.
Well, so, anyway,
Lane.
on paper, I don't know if it's actually like this because I don't live in these neighborhoods, but, like, I think it's Arthur Court, Sunset, it's mainly in North
I
Branford.
was gonna say
David Lane and Nordford,
Those are smaller
those
lots?
are tiny lots. They're pre-zoning.
Yep. Yeah. So just a thought.
Yeah. What's the next step with the plan of conservation and development? I feel like we kinda-
The big step initially is just securing funding from town council.
Okay.
So it's in the capital improvement plan.
Okay.
$50,000 was identified, but I don't think it's been officially designated and assigned because the state budget hasn't been set.
Okay.
Once that's secured, then we'll have to
can-
do a request for proposals to get a consultant on board.
And the consultant helps with the questionnaire we were coming up with, or that's all us?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Is that-
I think I would look to them to help us. I
Yeah.
encourage the commission to be as involved as possible.
Oh,
One will
yeah,
help
yeah,
save
yeah.
money and it just, has more investment and time
Are
into
they
the planning.
Yeah, I
involved in
wanna see
grant
something
getting
off.
at all?
So they will help us identify some projects that we wanna do as a result of the plan, and they'll help us identify funding to do some of those things. So if one of those things is, you know, putting in a bike path somewhere, they could help identify funding sources for things like that.
So do we need them?
Because I noticed, I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I don't know if it's Branford, got a big grant for something, I don't remember, I read it. But I don't know what it was, but they got a big grant money for it.
Okay.
So the questionnaire we wanna send out, we still have to wait until we secure the monies and,
Yes, and I think we should wait until we have a consultant on board, just to make sure that the timing is right
Okay.
with the
okay,
survey and public hearings.
okay.
Because in my mind, I think that we would wanna do a survey and then have the public hearing, so then we can share the results,
Yeah.
encourage people to come. Yeah,
You will run it through the town attorney also, right?
the whole process.
No, the finished process before it goes to public hearing to make sure that,
Yes, the request for proposals and.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Still not going through.
this building is bad for, texting.
My new iPhone 8 won't text for me. It was working fine until I lost my electricity and went on cellular. So now I went back to Wi-Fi and it's not working, so.
Well, with mine, I have to do this.
I guess that's it.
Well,
Is there anything else?
No, that's all.
I motion we adjourn.
I second.
Okay.